Sea Wolves! And if you're thinking, where the hell am I right now? Well, I was actually planning to do the show from my boat today, but I actually, this episode is being sponsored by Axios because the rain and the wind, here's a shot of what it looks like outside right now. So, as you can see behind me, it's, very, very rainy today, but we are Spartans, so we don't care. Was so horrible and bad, and I have two guys sanding the rest of my boat right now, but the weather gods weren't exactly with me, so I ran into the marina and I found Axios willing to give me a little place here to do the show with you guys. So I have some original Axios coffee, which is delicious, by the way. I have to compliment them on that, and they gave me a nice hat, you know, just to kind of do something back for them lending me their space here for a minute. So are you ready for the toast? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that is delicious, coming from the outside into the nice warm inside. So the next two races in the America's Cup happened, well, it's around 3 o'clock at night here, but of course I stayed up for it, and boy was that interesting. It's kind of fun that, you know, we talked about this over the last two races, and I talked rather long about the fact that pretty much the race statistically so far had been won in the starting box, and basically whoever makes it over the line first, you know, gets about 30 feet ahead of the other, just absolutely statistically just kills it and wins the race. But I have to say that Team New Zealand in race number 4 today actually, for my mind, broke the Rossa winning strategy so far that they used successfully to, you know, essentially beat the UK, the British team in the Parada Cup. And well, let's get into the details. So both starts were, well, let's start with race 1. So the first start was kind of interesting. We saw the boats taking a little bit more distance, and then as they came into the start, again, the Italians trying to get really close, but I have to say, barely managed. This wasn't, I would say, so skillfully done. I would say that the fact that they kind of got on top of New Zealand there seemed more a little bit the combination of some skill, but also just a little bit getting lucky kind of with the corner there. And then once they were in that position, they played the game that we've seen so far of them just being really tight on the New Zealanders, guarding really well, building out their lead until it was kind of safe to, you know, race their own race, which was pretty fast actually. I did think that the fact that they let several splits happen was, well, I mean, they still won, right? So I can't really fault them for that. But I have to say that every time they were doing that, me before the screen, I was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Well, it felt a little bit like, you know, their winning strategy really had been to just match the New Zealanders tack for tack when they were ahead. And I was a little bit afraid that they might give an opportunity for the New Zealanders to get back there. Well, not afraid, but you know what I mean. And they did, it felt dangerous a few times, but I think in this particular wind speed, which was quite different from the first race, we did see that Rossa definitely tacks a little bit faster. We saw the New Zealanders every tack fall back quite a little bit, so there's really still a lot to gain for them in the next races. If they can, you know, just improve that a little bit better, that'd be very valuable for them. And that overall, you know, kept them distance. They didn't really run out so far, not like the second race where we saw New Zealand basically win by, I think, 600 meters in the end. But it was a pretty cool race. I have to say though, after the second lap, basically it was over, right? Luna was ahead so far again that for my mind it felt like, okay, fast forward, we know that they're not going to be able to come back. That brings us to the second race, and this was really, really interesting because, like I said, we talked about it now in the first race and also in the previous race number 1, number 2, that there simply is no way, or at least that what we were postulating, to overtake once the race has really gone on and we have somebody ahead and you can just guard, and in close battle it's just impossible. Now, I mentioned in the last analysis that maybe if you're really close and you can get them to tack with you, you can get an opening and get past. That might be possible. But I guess that was one strategy which I did not see, did not discuss, which the New Zealanders found, and that actually turned out in race 2 to be effective. Because for my mind, even though they were just slightly ahead after the start, the position of Luna Rossa, you know, on the wind side, basically, for me, it still felt like Luna actually won the start there. And of course, they have the disadvantage that, you know, when the windward boat reaches the boundary, they have right of way. So they kind of, so Luna, you know, tacked away and kind of gave the New Zealanders space to, you know, get distance, and then over the next cross, the New Zealanders were really able to run far enough ahead that they could kind of race their own race and widen the gap. But in that first few seconds, like, either it was a mistake for Luna to tack away and they should have just stayed close. That was kind of my feeling, that they kind of a little bit gave it away there. But it did reveal that the way to pass, it is possible, but it's possible when you go as far away as possible. So I think that in race 2 it was very clear that the New Zealander strategy was that as soon as they hit the start, if it was still close, to just try to stay away from the other boat as far as possible. Every time Luna was trying to, you know, get by, they would tack again. Even a few times when I thought, well, no need to tack, might have been faster to just keep on the straight, but they would tack with, just to keep the distance between the two boats very large. And that ultimately enabled them to go from a position where they were more or less neck on neck to have the space to actually pass Luna, and then once they really, you know, were 200 or so meters ahead, they could run their own race, and they actually won race number 4. So very interesting strategy. I'm interested to see how you guys, you know, how you guys analyze this. Like, do you feel that Luna Rossa gave it away by kind of taking away the pressure? So we had the start, they both went. We had Luna technically a little bit behind, but very much on guard, very close. Then, you know, because they saw the boundary coming up, they kind of tacked away, maybe hoping that the New Zealanders did the same, which they didn't do. They continued all the way to the boundary. And when they saw that the New Zealanders weren't going with them, they actually kept going, hoping, I guess, for a speed advantage. So they went really far apart. At that point, Luna actually did passed them for a little bit. The New Zealanders tacked again, then they had to tack, and they went behind. For my feeling, if Luna had stayed with them, so if they'd gone all the way to the boundary, and they would have to give them a right away, so they would have tacked somewhere close to the boundary to allow them space to go. But I think in that closer battle, maybe if they'd stayed there and then maybe had run out for the next boundary where they presumably would have had the right of way, I think that would have been closer. For my feeling, that might not have they might not have handed New Zealand the win if they tried to stay close. The conclusion for me, looking at the two races, was Italy's really strong as long as they stay very close to the opponent until they're far enough ahead to, you know, essentially race their own race, and it no longer really matters if there's a split, if they're, you know, 400 meters behind. But in that first essential space, in that first essential part of the race, like the first 500 meters or so, tacking away, allowing New Zealand to essentially run their own start of the race for a little while, I think that in particular cost them race 2. So I'll be very interested to see what happens in the next two races. I have to say I love the scorecard. So 2 versus 2. You know, equal results, equal odds. I think that for us as spectators, that's definitely, we couldn't wish for anything better, I think. So that is actually very, very nice to see. And so, yeah, a new strategy, I guess. We had the really close strategy that I discussed last time. Now we also have the how do you get as far away from the other boat in order to get up there. And, you know, I haven't had the time to really put maybe, you know, 2 hours into actually looking at all the different maneuvers that were going on. Maybe I'll put out a separate video about the starting box tactics with what actually happened, especially in that second race, probably tomorrow once I had some time to really analyze the full thing. But looking at it now, I looked at the situation basically twice now, and that's my takeaway so far, that it looks to me like New Zealand have analyzed what the Italians have been doing so far and how they've been able to translate that really close combat situation and then guarding and just matching tack for tack, building out enough lead to win the race. I think they found a strategic hole in that. Basically working from the tack for tack, very close thing that I talked about 2 days ago in the first analysis, but then adding the idea of once you get the other team to tack, which essentially what happened with Luna, to actually not tack with, but take the space, and then use that much wider gap for them to use the still slightly higher speeds of New Zealand, I think, to pass the other yacht. And so that's my analysis of the race today. We're very much looking forward to the next one. Then some other updates. So working on the interview with Pip Hare, probably next week somewhere. We're going to sit down together over Zoom and have a really beautiful long interview about all the adventures doing the Vendée Globe, and I'm also working on a retrospective, but it's so much, it's so many episodes. I did like 80 episodes, I think, just on the Vendée Globe, and there's so many highlights, it's almost impossible to pick kind of one line throughout the whole race, but I'm attempting it. So I hope somewhere next week I'm going to post that. Then you guys asked in the comments if I wanted to take you to my boat and update on all the goings on there and all the updates that we're doing, building in the new autopilot. Of course, I'm taking off all the bottom paint, redoing that whole thing, and putting in several other electronics and just do some basic maintenance. So that's it for the America's Cup analysis today. Now we're going to hop over to the boat, and I'm going to take you on a little tour and show you some of the technical stuff that I'm working on. So we're going to do a little bit of a Seawolves DIY part for the second part. So let's jump in there. So to give you guys an idea of what's going on, why it's taking so long to take all the paint off. So basically I came in thinking that it might be like a 2-week job to get all this off. But unfortunately the previous owner had done 3 layers of base coat and that new anti-foul all over each other. And so the base coat is like 2-3 layers of base coat every time, plus maybe still 2 layers of anti-foul still in there. So all in all, there are about 21 layers of different stuff on the boat. So I figured I just have to take it off. So I'm already sanding for 12 days now, 3 of which I had these 2 guys help me out also. So it's like really altogether about 16 days of sanding already. And I guess we're about maybe 65, almost 70%. By the end of the day we'll be probably 70%. So very, very big sanding job, but making progress. We're getting there. And in here, look at my super spiffy. So this is a very rough mount, obviously. So I'm still kind of working out what exactly the location should be and everything concerning with the with my steering mount here. But it all works pretty well, and so all the electronics are built in, and so now all that remains is to place the computer, so the actual control unit, which is going to come right here outside, which I'm going to place in a few days. But since it's very rainy, not really a great idea to be drilling holes in the outside of the hull right now. But once that's in, then I can start hooking it up to the batteries and actually do some technical tests with it and see if everything works out. But should all work absolutely fine. So that's one thing I put lots of time in. You can see here I'm working also a bit on the different electronics. I updated my choke cables. I had to dig all into, I can't open it right now, but I had to dig all underneath in all the engine compartment and the tank compartment and all that stuff to wire all this through, but making good progress. So this also kind of gives a good idea of the vibe inside. There are just tools everywhere. Right now I'm actually in the middle of replacing all the hoses and the through hulls and the stop fittings for the toilet and stuff in here. So that's what I'm going to continue on right now. And I guess that's it for the short update, because it's so rainy. I'm not really doing anything outside, so no real DIY video. But I'm here again tomorrow, so then I'll try to film some actual, you know, stuff going on with a little bit of DIY piece. So again, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to go to seawolves.com, become a supporter, backer. Please like the video. That's also the easiest and best way to help the channel grow. And you know, let me know your strategic insights from race 3 and 4 of the America's Cup. And we'll see each other, I guess, tomorrow for another taste. So have a nice day and see you tomorrow.